Oh, I see that I was muted. Hey, hey, hey. Hopefully, you guys can hear me and everything is clear with the glitching and everything that was going on just a moment ago. Um, but I am here. And as you guys join, let me know that you can hear me okay and see me okay. I just want to make sure we get a little sound check and video check as we go through with this information today because I am excited about, just closing out Mother's Day or Mother's Month, I should say, and then going into Father's Month of celebration because I have a whole lineup for you guys, of special guests that are coming on. Um, if you're coming for the first time to this channel, I'm Mrs. Trouble. And what this channel is all about is making sure that we empower women and that we also offer firearm safety awareness to all. So I'm definitely excited the fact that we celebrated a whole month long of mothers and making sure that moms are equipped with the knowledge and skills that they need, but also providing those tips and different guidance and their experiences with others out there who maybe needed to hear those things. And so today is, continuing on that path as we close out the month. So always keeping safety first is always going to be a goal of mine, especially given the fact that I'm a firearm instructor. Always making sure that safety is number one is always going to be key in my mind. And as I'm expressing that to you guys all the time, no exceptions to that. And it's always going to carry over to everything that I do, making sure that, I exemplify safety. Um, but then also the whole fact of being a entrepreneur, like that never dies. People go to work, they're 9 to 5, they clock in, they clock out. With the entrepreneurship, doesn't really work out like that. You tend to work a whole lot more hours than the average 9 to 5. So that's why I'm saying that business is nonstop for an entrepreneur. Many times when people are sleeping, entrepreneurs are still working. Many times when people just open up their eyes, entrepreneurs already been up hours ago working on stuff. And that's just typically the way it works. And then there's another little delicate thing to add to it, though, when you are a mom and an entrepreneur, because being a mom already comes with so much other responsibilities. I mean, you're tending to the kids, you're tending to the house. You got to make sure bills get paid, make sure people get fed and clothed and things like that. Hopefully, there's a dad around to help with that support of everything that I just mentioned. But right now, we're focusing on moms. We'll get to dads next month. So definitely going into this right now with the whole notion that women have this unique ability of being able to juggle this and juggle that. Well, I know sometimes us ladies make it look easy, but I guarantee you it's not so easy. If you talk to any of us, you'll find that we have quite a bit of challenges. And one of the biggest challenge is time. Time, I think, is the number one biggest challenge, at least for me, as an entrepreneur and a mom, trying to juggle all the things that need to be done on a daily basis. It gets a little overwhelming at times, but you just press on through it and you keep going. Because there are some things that you just cannot, you can't predict, you can't avoid. And so you got to have to deal with it and move on to the next thing, right? And that's pretty much what moms do all the time. So I'd like to start off with just kind of, navigating with you guys some of the things that, typically can help clear that your head a little bit when you feel a little bit overwhelmed out there as a mom and trying to juggle things. Sometimes we feel that we may be just maybe not in the good headspace. And so we do have to make sure that we have that good headspace. And welcome, welcome. We are live.
It's okay. I was trying to join from a laptop. I didn't realize
Oh,
it
okay,
was
okay.
only on the cell phone. So it's
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Yep, we're
Understood.
good.
Understood. Well, you made it. Like I said, no
Yeah.
worries. It's laid back. It's one of those things. I appreciate you, jumping on, even though I know you didn't have much time today. I appreciate you jumping in. I wanted to
Oh,
make
it's
sure
okay.
I shared some other women's experiences outside of my own because you've had a different walk in life than I am. So it's one of those things where different ladies out there might need to hear that. So
Sure, sure.
yeah. So you guys, I have here Miss Stephanie DeBerry, and she is a licensed real estate agent. And she's been doing this for many, many years, but she also has her own nonprofit organization helping women out there as well. So I'm gonna let her take the mic and explain more in detail what it is she does, because I know you do better than I would to express these things.
Sure. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I always like to share and support another entrepreneur. As you said earlier, talking about entrepreneurship, we can't do it on our own. Our businesses don't grow on our own, right? Even with all of our work and hard effort, we need the support of our community. And so I try to show up as much as possible. So thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about myself tonight. I've been a real estate agent almost 20 years. I think I'm in year 19, licensed in DC, Maryland, Virginia. And originally, my goal was to create a lifestyle for my family because I was already in sales, and sales is a way that you can kind of write your own ticket, right? You
Mhm,
can break through a glass ceiling. There really isn't one a lot of times when you're in sales and you're making commission anyway. And
mhm.
so for me, as a innate entrepreneur, it was a way, it just made sense. And so I originally went into the business to create a great income for myself and my family, but then as I learned more about home ownership and more about our history with home ownership as people of color, then it filled a purpose for me. I sell real estate, J.R. King, DC, Maryland, and Virginia. I help people buy and sell property. And so it became more of a purpose driven because what I learned is not enough of us as African Americans own homes. We just don't. And that is a way to create not only a lifestyle stability, having a home, a place where you can create memories and family gatherings, but also generational wealth, right?
Yeah,
So we can use real estate to gain equity in your property. And then from there, you can go and own other properties, or you don't even have to live in the initial property as your primary residence. You can just become an investor. So there's ways to create wealth through real estate. And that is when the light bulb went off. And I was just like, okay, I want to help. I help everybody. So I got to put that out there. I work
mhm,
with everybody, every shade, every color, every language. However, I'm very passionate about making sure people of color, our communities have access and the information and what they need, the resources to become homeowners. There
right.
is money out there. I see a comment about the interest rates. There's money out there. There's ways to buy down rates. There's ways to refinance. We can't get caught up in all the hoopla, right?
Mhm,
Because again, people buy houses every day while we're sitting on the sidelines. And after 19 years, I get a little frustrated. I'm going to tell you, because I'm just like, some of us are going to miss the boat.
right.
Some of us are just going to miss the boat because housing prices are not necessarily getting lower, especially depending on where we are in the country. You and I are
Mhm,
located in one of the hottest markets in the country, the DC, Washington, DC metro area, right?
mhm,
Rental prices never go down, right? So people are paying to rent, and that's fine. Many of us started out renting, and that's okay. I'm not here to bash anyone that rents. Everyone will not be a homeowner.
right.
Everyone does not want that responsibility. However, at some point, many people want to make their money work for them, right?
Mhm,
And home ownership or owning property is a way to do that. And so I
yeah,
became very impassioned in making sure that people had the right information and not just mass media news, selling us. Meanwhile, other people, other cultures, they're not stopping. They understand it's a part of the American dream,
right.
right? While many of us are deterred because we might have credit issues or we're seeing the news and it's talking about the interest rates are higher. Yeah, they are higher. They're not as high as
Mhm.
they could be. And when you sit down with a lender will explain to you that that 1% difference is 6%, now 7% may only be a 25, 30, $40 difference in your mortgage. Come on, y'all. What are we talking about here? Right.
Right.
But
Right.
it just, you know, is what people sometimes want to hear to
Mhm.
prevent them from moving forward on what they need to do. But if
Right.
you haven't sat down with anyone to find out how that interest rate may affect you personally, then it's just talk, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Right. And so I've been blessed to help many people, not just DC, Maryland, Virginia, where I'm licensed, but all over the country because I have agent partners so I can refer people to make sure they're taken care of all over the country. And so I spent many years doing real estate. And then most recently, 6 years ago, I got divorced, unfortunately, from my husband. We were married almost 20 years. So we were in a long time, and through my divorce and the challenges of divorce, I realized that that situation was not necessarily all negative,
Right.
right? From it, from anything that we experience in life, there can be silver linings if we want to see it. If we want to, right? We have to change
Mhm.
our the way we look at things and then those things will change, right? And
Yeah.
so from my own experience, I started the nonprofit that you mentioned earlier, Restore Her. We're 3 years old. We're 2 years a 501c3 established nonprofit with the IRS, meaning all donate. We're a charitable organization, so the donations are tax deductible. But we help divorced women get back on their feet
Mhm.
because, first of all, marriage is challenging and divorce is challenging, right? It they're both challenging.
Yes.
However, after, years of being in a committed relationship, after partnering together for many years, after living a certain lifestyle, after having dreams combined together, divorce is devastating for both the husband and the wife, or both partners, let's say. But I tend to work with the women. I feel, just more called to work with the women. And we help women get back on their feet in four key
Mhm.
areas. And one being financials, right?
Yeah.
Many of these women, excuse me, experience financial devastation
Uh-huh.
completely,
That's often.
especially if she's a stay-at-home mom or maybe just working part-time. She might have worked, had a good job, education, and it was a commitment, and they decided that she would be home with the children, and he was the
Yeah.
breadwinner, right?
Mhm.
And so now you have a woman with children possibly that won't have that income. Divorced women lose close to 40% of the household income. So just imagine your own household at almost 40% disappears, right?
Yeah.
So we help women get back on track financially. Some women that we work with haven't budgeted a checking account or written a check in many years, right? Some women, their credit has been challenged. And we
Mhm.
know whether you're married or not, getting your credit back on track can be,
A
work.
challenge. Yes.
That's another challenge. We help them with mental health services because divorce requires therapy, marriage requires therapy. It's no different, right?
Mhm.
And so we help them with therapy, access to legal resources, right? Because some of these women cannot afford an attorney. If you've been a
Mhm.
stay-at-home mom with no income, how are you paying that? We were on last night, my nonprofit. We did a session with an attorney called Real Divorce Talk. Her
Mhm.
retainer is $10,000, just her retainer.
Wow.
And typically she only takes a lump sum payment.
Oh, wow.
So imagine you don't really have any income, or you weren't saving, or maybe your
Mhm.
husband gave you some type of an allowance, something.
Yeah.
But if you didn't put it towards a rainy day,
Mhm.
then where are you getting this money from? Right? And
Exactly.
and so the attorney even mentioned last night, not only will the divorce, but going through the process legally can bankrupt you, right?
Mhm.
So just imagine two people that weren't already on good financial footing, and then
Mhm.
you decide you want to get a divorce. and you don't want to go to mediation. You can't work it out and talk it out amongst yourselves. So you feel like you got to get an attorney, and then you just basically bankrupt the both. I mean, it's like
It's
a
a
vicious cycle,
mess.
right?
Yeah.
So she really explained a lot to us last night. So legal resources another, and then housing, because I
Mhm.
am a realtor and I've had women contact me, women who have helped purchase their, marital home and now need to sell it possibly, or buy out their husband, or the husband wants to, um, you know, get the wife off the deed, pay them off so they can maybe move a mistress in, or, their next woman or next mate, whoever, right? So those things happen. They
Yes.
happen, y'all. They happen. And so I just felt like, I didn't have that experience necessarily. When I
Mhm.
got divorced, I actually purchased my first home. I was on a mission. We were renting, and I said, you know what? I'm not going to rent anymore. Right?
Right.
This is my last rental property. I said that whether we were married or divorced. But anyway, I made sure I kept my word on that. And so now my children have stability along with myself. And so I realized that I didn't go through that just for me and my family,
Mhm.
right? I went through that, and I would say I got through it fairly well. I still have, my own issues, but it's for me to help somebody else, right? To be
Yeah.
a support to someone else, to show someone else the way. Many of these women have lost hope. They've lost money. They feel like they lost the love of their lives. Can we imagine all that happening at one time? It's a lot.
Right.
It's a
It's a
lot.
lot. And not only to mention that, I mean your security, your safety. You don't feel like that whole safety factor is gone as well. Because I mean, you look at the husband in the equation being the protector, and provider. And so you lose that sense of security and protection with you. So it's a lot going into that, all those factors. I'm so glad that your organization is out here providing those services because it's very much needed. Definitely so. So I want to go to
Exactly.
the comments real quick because I do see,
Sure.
first of all, somebody did say, "Where's the men's help?"
I get that all the time. So let me tell you, somebody gonna have to start something,
Yes.
because I get that all the time. And I
Hmm.
love that for a reason, because that's our men acknowledging and wanting help. And
Yeah.
so men get bashed for not wanting
Hmm.
help, right? Or not being able to ask. So
Right.
I appreciate that. I wish that I was able to really tune in, right? Because, yeah, I
Yeah.
understand that both parties are devastated, but a man's devastation and a man's hurt is definitely different than what the woman is experiencing, right?
Yeah. And more
And
cases than not, a lot of times, guys, you have the ladies that tends to be with the kids primarily. Majority of the
right, we
time.
do get
That's
some, we do get
yeah.
men that do end up
Hmm.
with the children, right? And
Yes.
so it's a different dynamic. And
Hmm.
I'm not well versed in it because I'm a woman.
Right.
However, there are some resources we definitely could help with.
Hmm.
So, if a man contacts me, I'll share information, but the organization is for women. But I keep getting this. I'm telling you, I get this. Yeah.
The
So I want you to
only the
think
only
about that if a
organization,
man doesn't step up to the plate.
yeah, for the mental health aspect, the only organization I can think off the top of my head is a nonprofit called Mindful Men. And
Mhm.
he does go live on Instagram to have conversations, and he does different meeting groups and things like that, to help men with their mind and just helping them, and be
Therapy.
empowered therapy. Yeah. So that's the only organization I could think off the top. But I do know there are some other resources with Enough Cries, which is for domestic abuse. And they
Right. And
help
some
women
women
and
go
men.
through that.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've
So
I've heard of that organization too.
hmm.
And some of our women that are divorced go through that. So there's some overlapping, right?
Yes.
Services that can be provided. We stick to the four key areas though,
Mhm.
because you help a woman, first of all, get her mental health, get her
Mhm.
finances right, get her housing stable.
Yeah. I do
I
want to
mean,
jump
that's
back in
that's
this
everything
chat.
we all need.
Yeah, I,
Yeah.
I got to go back in this chat to say hi to Drew. So hey, Drew, thanks for joining. But I also want to jump into Junior King saying that it's 2025, men and women go 50-50. I have to address that, sir or miss. I have to tell you that there's really no such thing as 50-50. It's really not.
Yeah.
Because you have, in any relationship, there's going to be days where the man may be doing 60% and the woman is doing the rest. The woman might be doing 99% one day, then the man's only doing 1%. The percentage situation is going to flop. It's going to go back and forth with every given day. And that's with everybody's
Yeah.
relationship. So it's really no such thing as 50-50, honestly.
And I don't know if he's just saying that as financial. When I hear
Hmm.
people say that, I say a lot of them aren't married
Right.
because
Yeah.
it's not even a conversation that I entertain a lot.
Hmm.
But I do believe, first of all, each household establishes their own rules. If we're talking about 50-50 as far as financials,
Yeah,
every
he
household
did mention
operates.
talking about bills.
Yeah,
Mhm.
every household operates differently. What works for
Yeah,
you, that might be fine. I
yeah.
know for me, if that's how a man thinks out the gate, that's not the person for me necessarily,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
I will be a helpmeet. I mean, I can hold my own. I've been doing
Right.
it. That's not an issue. But at the same time, for me, right?
Mhm.
For me, and especially at my age. So I think it depends on where we are too. There's so many variables with that, but the
Exactly.
fact that financials are the one of the first things we go to, I don't that doesn't even sit well in my spirit when I'm thinking about a relationship. Because to me,
Yeah.
it's so much more to a marriage. Financials are important, but we got to have purpose. We got to have kingdom. We got to,
Mhm.
what are we doing? It's
Right.
more than bills, right?
Direction.
Eh,
Yeah.
Yeah, what direction? Where are you leading me to, sir? Like,
Mhm.
what is your plan? Right?
Yeah.
Because to your point, it's not balanced all the time. Even
Yeah.
with financials, the husband could be the
Mhm.
breadwinner at some point and he may contribute more. It's You got to look at income,
Right.
right? When you're looking at financials, he may make six figures, she may make 50,000 to his 150,000. That's
Mhm.
not going to work 50-50 then, right?
Yeah.
So there's other ways that things are laid out. And I think as people of color, we do ourselves a disservice when we hit on that right away because we're missing more context to the relationship. We're
Yeah.
missing good people, right?
Mhm.
Because we want to go directly to, well, I need you to do this and I need you to do that. First of all, are we even a good fit? Are you
Right.
healing, sir? Have you been
Right.
in therapy? What's your childhood trauma been like? Right? Those are
Mhm.
conversations I want to have before we
Yeah.
even get to financials. But that's
Mhm.
just me. That's just me.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like you guys said, and you're saying in the chat, I'm seeing a couple of different options here. Like the 50-50 thing works for some people. Joey King said, they cook and they clean. I think that's great. 3K mortgage, who's paying that by themselves these days? That's what he's saying. So, everybody's different as to what works for them. I know in my relationship, we started out with the whole thought process of 50-50. Well, throughout the time, that has definitely changed. It has gone back and forth, up and down, round and round with each
Exactly.
each
What
part of
happens when
our life.
somebody gets
Yes.
sick? Who's
Yes.
how can you pull that weight if it's 50-50? Somebody got to
Exactly.
give 100% when that person becomes unemployed. So what happened to that? It's
Yeah.
just we
So it
we got
doesn't,
to we
yeah.
got to think deeper than that.
Hmm.
Way deeper than that cuz life is going to start lifing.
Yeah, and like Mike was saying, Mike says that his wife pays the mortgage. She's a doctor, and he has supported her through school, so and the family. So he held it down, and now she's taking the wheel when it comes to that. Hey, that it works,
That
and
works.
that's exactly what we're saying. Everybody's life is going to be very different one from the other as to what actually works.
And I can
So,
give you just a
mhm,
good soundbite of advice, something I heard. I don't think a lot of couples do, but we should really think about it going for, especially in this economy, especially with the lifestyles everybody's trying to lead. Like, we really, as people of color, we gotta have our money. We gotta have money for a rainy day. We gotta have
yeah,
retirement. We gotta have savings. So I have family members that when they got married, they did it on one income, even though both were working. They
hmm,
built their life off of the one income. And
hmm,
discipline. That takes,
Yeah.
planning. But they're living well now. And guess what? One of them got
Mhm.
sick. I mean, it was
Yeah.
many years, but guess what? They didn't miss a beat because their whole relationship was built on that one
Oh, that was
income.
very
And
smart.
if a lot of us can think about that,
Mhm.
right? Then that's not even a 50-50 piece
No.
anymore when you're going off of that one income.
Mhm.
So there's, like you said, there's so many dynamics. We could talk about that all day, but at the end of the day, it really is based on what people want. But what I will say is don't miss out on great people and good
Mhm.
situations because of, some numbers that at the end of the day don't always make a lot of sense anyway once you in the relationship.
No, they don't. And one of the things that I know that I took with me along the years, thinking about the situation if someone were to get sick in our relationship, and you have one person, people are working in these jobs, and you have that life insurance plan. Some of those life insurance plans will allow you to collect from them while you're still alive if you have like a terminally ill, situation happen to you. So plans like that also be beneficial to plan for a rainy day. And then of
And
course,
I'm a life insurance agent. So
yep.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
those type of
So
things work good.
yeah, it's called living income,
Yeah.
right? So
Hmm.
it's not just about when you pass, right? Unfortunately, setting your family up, but how you can, and that's what the wealthy do. I got a couple books back here, right? The
Hmm.
Rockefellers, right? We got to really look at how we got to look at the templates and the models
Hmm.
that other people have done to be successful. And life insurance is basically a way to be your own bank,
Yeah. Yeah.
basically a way to borrow from yourself,
Hmm.
right? And we got to start those policies a little bit older when we have children, right? Get them into policies. When we have young people in college, get them started because they have a longer time to invest. So it's
Yeah.
usually less expensive than us trying to play the catch up game, right?
Exactly. So Lynn, hey, 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 welcome, welcome. I see Lynn had a question for you. When will rates go down? What do you think?
I have no idea, Lynn. I'll tell you what. I always tell my clients I am not a forecast. I don't have a crystal ball. People throw out their analysis. What I will say is the best thing to do is just speak with a lender. I want to tell everybody it doesn't cost to speak to professionals,
Yeah.
right? Watching the news and hearing the rates is not enough,
Hmm.
right? Your credit, your financial standing, your lending institutions have everything to do with the interest rate. And I'm not understanding why we don't understand. Most of us aren't in a house for 30 years anyway,
Right.
right? So you're not tied in like that.
Hmm.
The other thing is you can, eventually at some point refinance. The issue is when we sit and wait and hope and pray, because we're people of faith a lot of times,
Yes.
you get priced out of the market. What I mean by
Mhm.
that is if your income, if you don't have like a great promotion coming soon, or maybe you're going into a whole nother industry, that's going to give you a much higher salary. Meanwhile, the housing prices are going up. Where where are you left?
Yeah.
Right? You're left here, prices are going up when you could have been here and here,
Hmm.
right? But because you said, well, I'm gonna wait for the rates to go down, and housing prices are still going up.
Hmm.
So when will you ever catch up,
Right. Right.
right?
Hmm.
Though I mean, just the way things are going now, when do you ever catch up? What happens is sometimes when people are eventually able to buy, you're not able to buy at that level that you wanted to buy,
Yeah.
right? Initially, because now that $500,000 house that you're looking at now is 600, 700,000 plus, right?
Right.
Depending on where you are in the country, right? Depending
Hmm.
on how much time you wait. And I'm not saying this just because I'm a realtor, y'all. I'm saying it because I see people that I talked to 5 years ago, they're still not able to buy. And they're still in their same job. And
Yeah.
when they were able to buy 5 years ago, they did listen to the lender when the lender told them specifically what to do to address their credit. They
Hmm.
didn't do it, and they went and bought a car, right? And they still aren't homeowners. 5 years later. Right? So you're
Wow.
missing out on tax benefits, you're missing out on equity, right? And equity, we know is the difference between what you owe on the property and how much your property has grown, right? And
Yeah.
so at the end of the day, sometimes you can use that money to send your kids to school. You can use
Mhm.
that money. I had a client call me right before this call. She wants to, potentially do some work on her house, right? You
Yeah.
can use that money to invest in your business. I think I saw a comment earlier. You can use that money to buy another property,
Yes. Yes. Someone did say that.
right?
Yep.
Got to make it work for us.
I
So
was
to
just
her
talking
point,
about that last night.
yeah, I'm not sure when the rates are going to go down. I'm sorry. But at the
Mhm.
end of the day, what I would advise anyone to do if you're considering owning a home, just have a talk with a lender or an
Yeah.
agent like myself that can guide you. And guess
Mhm.
what? We're not going to force you to do anything. I don't like to work with people that don't want to do what they say they want to do. I'm not
Right.
doing it. I don't get,
Mhm.
there's not enough money for me to work with people that don't really want to do, right?
Wow.
I can't force you to make an investment for yourself,
My
right?
thing is don't
And
waste my time.
right, and I don't, right? Because I get to choose
Yes.
who I wanna work with, right? And it's
Right.
not a bad thing, it's just sometimes people aren't ready, and I understand that. If you're
Mhm.
not ready, you're not ready, but there's a difference between afraid and not ready.
Exactly. That's true. That's true. So someone
So
Lynn is asking, do you think that the housing market shift is happening because Trump is in office and making some changes politically?
Yeah, to some extent, but I mean, shifts were already happening. The market was already starting to slow down some last year. I had some of my best years during COVID, where
Mhm.
everybody was, thinking, "Oh my gosh, things, were happening." Of course, we never experienced that before, but the market is still moving. That's what I want to make sure our people understand. People are
Mhm.
still moving all around us. They're
Yeah.
still moving. They're not
Mhm.
hesitating.
No.
So, I that could be to answer their question, sure, sure, because we're in the DMV. People don't even know, when at first they were trying to get rid of government jobs or threatening government workers, and then it spread to contractors and even private industry. A lot
Mhm.
of people in this area were like, okay, it's getting too expensive anyway. Let's pack up and go. So we got houses on the market, but then it's like, okay, some buyers will even have a job, right? You
Right.
can't buy if your job is in jeopardy, right?
Mhm.
And so I would say yes to some extent, but guess what? As far as we know, he's still got 3 more years and he's trying to go beyond that. So again, we just got to learn how to pivot and still get the things that we want and desire for our families in the midst of
Yeah.
whatever's going on, right? You just
Mhm.
got to find alternate routes. There's always more than one way to skin a cat,
That's
right?
true. Mhm.
Yeah. So if
So
you
on that
want
note,
it, yeah.
on that note, I definitely want to shift gears real quick because I know you need to go. Um,
Yes,
I wanted to ask, as a mom building different brands for yourself, you are a brand yourself.
yes,
What did you feel was like the most challenging thing to navigate through this? I mean, you were going through divorce, you were building an empire, you're building an organization, and all while being a mom. So, what did you
mhm.
feel was some of the most challenging things about being a mom throughout these journeys in this business arena?
I think being a mom, first of all, is just challenging anyway, right?
Yes.
But when you're trying to do many things, and shout out to all the moms because we're doing the best that we can do, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And I think that's part of it because society makes us feel we have to do everything all the time, give all of us to everybody. Right? We
Hmm.
can never lack in any way. If we do, we're not a good mom. And so
Right.
I think, especially with the divorce, it was just, prioritizing, family and just trying to make sure that my children were good, just trying to, keep a roof over our head while doing that, the balance of it all. Right.
Hmm.
And I remember it was the former CEO of Pepsi. She was a speaker at one of the Howard University graduations. I'm an HU Howard University alum. And so she spoke and she said, as a woman CEO, you cannot have it all. And I firmly believe when she said that, I said, yes. She said, something always suffers.
Yeah.
Something always suffers, and we have to understand that because I think we're in this space of we can do it all. You
Mhm.
can, but you might not do it well, right?
Right.
We can't do everything well, right?
Mhm.
And then while I'm building this, there's time that I'm missing with my kids. While I'm with my kids, there's time. So you try to balance as best you can. That I would say is the first thing. And my children are a little older, so I incorporate them some in my
Mhm.
business. I think that's helpful, right?
Yeah.
Because not only am I spending time with them, but then they're also learning some skills, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's good for anybody listening. But then the other thing is because I am a mom, a realtor, executive director of a nonprofit, and I've been a realtor for almost 20 years, that's how a lot of people know me. Making
Mhm.
that shift into something else is difficult because, especially in our communities, we put people in boxes. I only want to know you as Mrs. Trouble. You can't do nothing else. That's all you can do because that's how I know you. And it doesn't matter if you're amazing at anything else. I only
Mhm.
want to see you do that.
Yeah.
We got to be careful because we allow people to place us in those boxes. We
Right. Right.
allow people to make us uncomfortable when there may be something else we want to do.
Mhm.
And I was challenged by that a little bit. And I said, wait a minute, Stephanie, you only got one life. No one can
Exactly.
tell me what I'm good at.
Mhm.
No one can tell me what I can't do, right? That's not their space or place. And so I think just working through that, right?
Mhm.
And just being an advocate for myself and hearing people say, well, you do real estate. Well, how do you do this? Because I'm multi-talented because I am
Yes.
a mother. I know how to multitask, right? All the
Exactly.
mothers, all the fathers, we got to be able to do more than one thing. So
Mhm.
why can I do that professionally? So
Yeah.
I would say that was another challenge too, because at some point you may want to shift gears, but then
Exactly.
when you're in the community and they only see you one way, you got to
Mhm.
be able to, like you said, I'm my brand. My brand is multi-dimensional, right?
Exactly.
I'm not just a realtor. I always say that I'm so much more than a realtor, right?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so I would say that was another very important thing for me to break through
Mhm.
inside. And now it's just like, and I incorporate what I've done into the nonprofit. Women need housing. So
Exactly.
see, I'm still a realtor,
Yeah. It just
right? So
evolved. I know my husband definitely dealt with that same thing because
mhm.
he, being in the firearm industry, people did put him in a box. So when he's meeting with other business minded people and he starts to talk about his SEO work and his website building and things like that, they're like, but I thought you was a firearm instructor. And he's like, yeah. I'm that as well. And so it's
Yeah,
like as if I can't do more than one thing. I remember us having that conversation. And then I sit there
it's
and I
tough.
watch, yeah, I watch my stepmom. My stepmom, she's been being a cheerleader coach, being a editor, and also her own business, making clothes as well, having a boutique. And I'm like, how? Yeah, I mean, like, is there enough hours in a day for all this? But she has been doing it for years and
She
like
probably loves
consistently.
it.
She does. She loves it all. So, and she's also a makeup artist as well. So I'm
So
like,
she's very creative. So all of that is
very,
different aspects of creativity,
yes,
right?
yes.
So it makes sense when you say
Mm-hmm.
that, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, she's a creative. And
Yep.
so sky's the limit. We just can't let people limit us. And so I would encourage
No.
anybody on the call, if there's something else you want to do along with what you're doing, that's like people that work a 9 to 5 and have a side hustle or business, right?
Exactly.
You
You can do it.
you're not just tied into your title at work. Like,
Right. You don't want to
so
get lost in that, being your identity either. So I would encourage people to have a life outside of work. Have a hobby
yes.
or a business, side hustle, whatever you want to call it, outside of your 9 to 5. Because when it does come to that time of you getting to that age where you're ready to retire, you don't want to lose your identity, and your identity will be lost if you're stuck in this is my 9 to 5, this is who I am, this is what I do. You need to have some other things going outside that job so you'll know yourself when you don't have that job anymore.
And you know what? Can I add because you're talking about moms today? we also as moms need identity outside being a mom.
Yes. Yes.
Because while it is the best job on the planet, right? At the end of the day, though, your children, right, God willing, will grow up and do amazing things that you created them and nurtured them to do. And then
Mhm.
who are you?
Exactly.
I'm not just Cameron, Chanel, and Chase's mom. I was
Mhm.
somebody before my beautiful three children arrived on the planet.
Exactly.
And so I think as women too, we forget about ourselves when we
Mhm.
become moms sometimes.
Yeah.
And again, that needs balance because to me, the more you pour into yourself, the more your children or your husband or your significant other, your partner
Mhm.
benefits. It's
Yeah.
not selfish, you
Mhm.
know? And
It's
so
not.
that's something some of the divorced women go through. Who am I now? I'm not married. I was married for 30 years. I was such and such's wife. It's
Mhm.
an identity crisis.
Exactly.
And it's major. So you just brought that up with the job, but we have to remember that in our role as moms too.
I have definitely experienced that as a mom. And to be honest with you, between my mom and my husband, they helped me realize it and they helped me down a path that I'm on now. And I remember those moments vividly because one, my mom looked at me one day and said, you don't do your hair as much as you used to. You don't really hang out and do anything. You go to work and you come home, go to work, come home. And like, you're just not caring about certain things you normally would care about before. I really think that you're like a working depressed person. Like you're walking in depression, but you're just so focused on taking care of those kids and being a spouse to someone that you're not really thinking about yourself. So that was one thing.
Yep.
Then the other conversation with my husband, we were starting a business at this time. We were starting a business at this time, and we had done it for a couple of years. And I didn't know my place within the business. So I stepped back from that, let him do it, and I focused on the kids in the house. And eventually he
Mhm.
said, babe, if you want to help with this, you can. I would really like your help with this. He's like, I really want you to find something for you. I don't want you to be like behind me and being my shadow in the sense that you don't have your own thing. Like I want you to have your own thing. So it took some time. And eventually I got to a point where I started my women's group and then I, did the YouTube channel and, all these type of things. So it became me. I definitely
Yeah.
found me in the process.
And that's a beautiful thing. That's a
Yes.
beautiful thing. We have to, continually evolve, continually discover ourselves. I think Beyonce's mom, Miss Tina,
Hmm.
she got flack because she was saying at 70 some years old, she's still discovering herself. I don't know why people don't realize this is a lifelong journey. She got a lot of flack
Yes.
from that, especially from women. Like, why are you still trying to
Why?
figure out who you are? Because we're constantly figuring out there's so much inside of us
Right.
that
And
we
she's a
may never
creative
even use.
person. Yeah.
Exactly.
So she has a lot
Exactly.
in her probably that she has never really ventured to try because she was a wife, she was a mom, and she was a
And
designer,
poured
a
a lot
cook.
into the group
Yes.
and a lot of
Yes.
time. Yeah,
Mhm.
so
And so, yeah, I can only that only makes sense to me being a mom and going through those things. And I can imagine that when these kids get out the house, when they get grown enough to be out the house, I'll probably go through the same thing. Who am I? I don't know what I'm supposed to do now with this extra time I have.
right.
So, yeah, I can only imagine that. I wonder if anybody else has gone through that. So, if you guys are in the chat, just put something in the chat. Let us know what some of the biggest things that you've noticed, or have you gotten to those roadblocks, male and female, as a parent, where
Right.
you've lost your own identity, as a husband or wife, that you've lost your own identity within your relationship or within being a parent? Because those navigations that we have to go through, like we have to be empowered and inspired to take those risks, take those chances, and go out there and just like live our dreams. You only get one life. So,
Exactly.
yes.
Exactly. And you might be happier when you do it. Your children will be grateful that you are.
Yes, and that's the facts. So, Miss Stephanie, I don't want to hold you if you have to go. I'm going to stay on and talk to these guys a little bit longer, but if you need to go, don't feel like you're being rude. It's okay. I know.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it, y'all. And look, I would stay on, but my daughter's having a graduation party tomorrow. I got family in town. So they ripped and ran and they're on their way back. They're texting me about our grocery list for tomorrow. So I have to be able to respond. But thank you so much for this opportunity. I love you, support you, the business. The ladies will be back at the gun range with you as well. So I'm excited this
Yay!
summer. Yeah, we're gonna have another group
Yes.
soon. So I'll say probably like July, August.
Nice. That'll be awesome. I would love to see you guys again. That was such an honor to have you guys come out with me before. It's gonna be awesome. Can't wait.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
Everybody
you.
have a good night. Oh, can I let them know if anybody wants to reach me, has questions? I'm on Facebook, Stephanie Gordon DeBerry, Stephanie with a Y on Instagram, Steph Sells DMV. I'm online. So you can find me if you have other questions because I can't see the chat. But if you have
Mhm.
any questions regarding real estate, insurance, divorce, let me know. I can help you no matter where you are in the country.
Send me those links by text and I'll add them to the description too. Okay.
Okay,
So people will
I
be
will
able
do
to
that.
get into that. Well, you have a good night. And
All right.
you
Thank
guys, I'm
you.
going to hang out with you guys for a few more minutes as we wrap up this conversation because I want to make sure you guys are empowered to have the tools you need for everything. So, when it comes to all this, as far as real estate goes, getting housing, getting financial assistance, go ahead and try it. It's nothing stopping you, honestly. It doesn't hurt to go and talk to a professional about these things, and most of the time the consultations are free when it comes to these type of services. We're talking about interest rates, we're talking about retirement plans, all types of things that you guys are interested in doing when it comes to that, because we can't sleep on it. We can't say there's always tomorrow because we really don't know if it's always tomorrow. And the same thing with our safety. This is a whole nother form of safety for us, that we have to have that financial stability, because what happens if something happens to you? What happens to your kids? What happens to your spouse? You have to think about those things, what type of life insurance plan you may have, because that's also a major thing that I feel, especially in the Black community. We tend to not have life insurance plans to be able to pay for our loved one's burial when it's time. You don't want to be that burden on your family. So think about those type of things. These are ways that you can actually always protect yourself. But yeah, I just wanted to encourage you guys to go ahead and be enlightened, get that knowledge that you need. I have some people here that said that they flip homes, renovate homes and things like that. I think that's awesome. I hope that you guys are instilling in your children this knowledge as well, because your kids need to have this information and it may go a long way. Maybe they can go into the family business with you. Maybe they'll just be enlightened to know how to better take care of themselves when they become an adult and be able to buy homes and live in homes and things like that. So they'll learn how to navigate through this crazy interest rates that we have. These is always some roadblocks in front of us, but that doesn't mean that we can't get over them. We can't get around them. We just have to figure out the how. And so I want to encourage you guys to just always be hopeful to get through or over your obstacles. There's always a way. So definitely keep that in your heart as you go through life and making decisions. DMV, you said you do agree, but to be honest, people trying to figure out how to eat tomorrow, that's the facts. So not many can afford a house right now, and that's fine. And the thing is, home ownership is not always the goal for everyone anyway. I know people who don't have an interest in home ownership regardless. It's a big responsibility. So, not one shoe fits all. But even still, outside of that, where is the retirement plan? Do you have, a living insurance, type of thing in case something happens to you physically and you can't work? These type of things like that, you can go ahead and still invest in your time, your energy. And a lot of times you'll find that those bills are no more than like somewhere between 12 to maybe $40 a month on average. And so that's not nothing but you saying, oh, I'm not going to go get, McDonald's, Burger King, or my Starbucks coffee a couple times out the month, and I'll be able to pay for that bill. So those are things that we can do to be proactive to help ourselves in this type of scope of safety, because safety comes in all forms. I seen a video the other day. I was like, oh, wow, I like this guy's insight. He was expressing lots of times we put ourselves in a place of being vulnerable when we are coming from the grocery store. We got the baby, we got the grocery bags, and we're putting the baby inside of the car with our back turned to everywhere else, right? This guy made a good point. He said, take the grocery cart and put it behind you and stand inside the doorway where there's actually a barrier all around you. And I was like, that was great advice. I think I like that. I never really thought about it like that. Instead, I'm constantly looking over my shoulder the entire time and just like making sure I'm listening. I don't have earbuds on or anything like that at the time to make sure I can hear in case someone comes up around me. But I'm constantly like putting the baby in there and just kind of taking a look back to make sure that nobody's coming around me. And if they are, then I'm very, very conscious about that usually. But, just going around and doing things and being aware of your surroundings is always the first key. And it doesn't matter what place you're in, whether you feel like it's quote unquote a safe space or it doesn't have high crime and things like that. You always want to be diligent and making sure you pay attention to your surroundings. But just little things like that, locking doors behind you when you walk into places or you're going into your car. Just having normal routines like that is going to be very beneficial. And then there's so many things out there that we don't know. So I encourage you guys to go out there and find those instructors that has like hand-to-hand combat, firearm training courses, refuse to be a victim courses, things like that that's going to help you have the knowledge, but also the tools to be able to be safe. Because we live in a day and time where, it's unpredictable lots of times when things happen, but some things are could be preventable if we had the knowledge. You wouldn't put yourself in certain situations if you had the knowledge. And so that's where I'm coming from on that front. So as I leave you guys today, I want to leave you with, again, telling all the moms out there, thanks so much for being supportive and being a part of this channel. All the guys out here, I appreciate you guys being supportive and always being in the chat, chatting it up with me, educating me on your perspective, because I need that. I need that. We're a community. We have to learn from one another. And I look forward to next month going into to celebrate you guys as well. The things that you men go through is definitely something worthwhile for me to listen to and have a better relationship with my own husband, who's going to help me start off next month anyway. So I'm excited about having this conversation with you guys next month about how life looks from the male perspective when it comes to firearm safety awareness, entrepreneurship. We're going to navigate so many different things. I have some great guys coming out to talk to you guys about their journeys in life and how they incorporate safety and making sure they navigate their family well. So, once again, thanks so much for joining. I'm going to go ahead and tune in for tonight to get some rest. I have to get to the range tomorrow. So, hopefully, I can see some of you guys out at the range as well. So, you stay tuned for more videos and you guys have a good night. Thank you guys.